Hey everybody, and welcome back to Legendary Language Learner. I'm Matthew Boyle, and in today's video I've got a really special topic for you because I'm currently celebrating the fact that I've been living in China as an expat for the past 10 years. I came here originally in the summer of 2011, and I can't believe that I'm even saying that. I can't believe that much time has passed. It actually feels like it passed in the blink of an eye. And China has given me so many special things, or allowed me to achieve and pursue so many special things that really changed my life. It's really profound when I think about it, that this is the place where I met my wife, started my language learning card game company, and now had my daughter. And when I think about how to convey it to you guys and how to summarize it, I'm really at a loss. I feel daunted by that task. So in today's video, I thought I would bite off just a small piece of what this all means to me, and that is the language learning component. And who knows, maybe later I can bite off some other small pieces to talk about. Maybe you guys can leave me some comments and let me know what you'd like me to talk about. But I thought, since that's the main focus of this channel, language learning, I should start there. So I'm going to talk to you guys about how I got into Mandarin and share some little anecdotes and tips and things I encountered about learning this amazing language during the course of this video. Before I jump in, I want to warmly welcome you to like and subscribe, because I'm going to keep putting out new videos every Saturday about how to make language learning magical. Alright, now let's jump in. So how did this all start? Well, it started in university for me because I already had an interest, which started in high school and just grew and grew in university, for Eastern religion and philosophy and culture. So I decided when I was in university to take a Mandarin language course. And I took it for 1 year, and I loved it. The class size was pretty small. I think it tended to have about 15 students. The teacher was great. I had 2 or 3 teachers from China during that year, which was fantastic. I had a good experience with it. I got a good grade, and I learned the basics in a pretty well-rounded way. The reading, the writing, the listening, the speaking. But then what happened was I finished my undergraduate degree. My last year of university, I studied no languages, and then I went to grad school for 2 years, and I also studied no languages in grad school. So for 3 years after my initial foray into Mandarin, I didn't learn any languages anymore, and I didn't even review or keep up with my Mandarin, so I sort of lost touch with it. What ended up happening was, right after I graduated from grad school, I decided to move to China. So I moved to China in the summer of 2011, and I really couldn't speak any Mandarin. I couldn't navigate. I landed in the Beijing airport, and I had to go to another terminal by bus to be able to get my connecting flight to come down to Guilin, where I was going to live. And I just had to rely on signs, and maybe I spoke to someone at the information desk who could speak a little English or something, but I couldn't speak the language. So it was just a crazy scene, just me showing up in China and just taking a deep breath and looking around me, trying to take in my new surroundings, but I really couldn't communicate with anyone. I had to rely on other people's English wherever I could to kind of get around. Luckily, some friends were picking me up in Guilin, so once I got to Guilin, I was with friends and they could start showing me around and teaching me some phrases. So at that point, in 2011, in Guilin, I was a false beginner because I had had 1 year of Mandarin learning already, but it was so long ago and I hadn't practiced it that I had basically lost it. So I had to start over, basically. I had to relearn the basics. But what was interesting was, at this time, I didn't learn in the way that you typically would learn, or I didn't learn the topics you typically would learn in a class or from a textbook. What I knew I had to do was immediately start to learn the phrases that would help me get what I need and get around and survive the daily life. So I quickly realized there were certain words and phrases that I needed to say when I was out and about, and I couldn't say them, and that would frustrate me a little bit and worry me a little bit because I really couldn't speak the language. So those were some of the phrases that I started to learn first. So this speaks to the importance of practice or the real life practicality as opposed to classroom theory and book study. So some of the phrases that I had to learn right away were, for example, I would like to buy a bottle of water, or 3 bottles of water, or 2 large bottles of water. And the reason was I was told that it was not considered safe to drink the tap water in China and you should buy bottled water. So of course I could have just gone and pointed to what I needed, but I didn't really want to do that. I was interested in the language and the culture. I wanted to learn the language, so I learned that phrase first. I was also a vegan before I came to China. I had no plans to change that, so I needed to learn to convey that to people. I had to learn how to say, I'm a vegan. What vegan dishes do you have? What vegetable dishes do you have? Could you make this but not add meat to it? I had to learn, for example, to ask, where are you going? Where can I meet you? What time should I meet you? These sorts of things to coordinate with other people. Because I also didn't have a phone, and we'll get to that in a minute. But so to make a long story short about this portion, I got my footing back, and I started to learn the basic phrases, such as, where are you going? The ever popular question in China, where are you going? And also, have you eaten yet? Where are you from? These types of things. I was in Guilin, which is in southern China, if you don't know, and the accent is different between the north and the south. In the north, they tend to have what's called R-hua, which is they have a R sound, R, on a lot of the words, and in the south, they don't have that. So I feel like since I landed in Guilin and spent my first 2 years of China there, I really had developed more of an ear for and an appreciation for the southern accent on Mandarin. So I really attribute the initial growth and all the subsequent growth, really, in my Mandarin to the fact that I had this amazing environment. I was really living in China. I had this environment that could support me and motivate me. I really had to use the language. But I learned at my leisure, basically, because it was all around me in my daily life. I could choose kind of when to tune in, when to tune out. I loved conversing with friends and strangers. I still do today, but I think I do it a little bit less today because now I have a smartphone and then I didn't. I made a video about the effect of getting a smartphone on my life and my language learning before. I'll put a link in this video. But in 2011 in Guilin, I had no phone. And I think I made a lot of progress because I talked to people a lot. I tuned in and I listened to the environment and I listened to the people. I was so open to having conversations, and a lot of Chinese people are interested to chat with foreigners and make friends with foreigners. So this was the main way that I was learning. I didn't go to classes. I got tutored a little bit, but I generally didn't go to classes. I was pretty much self-studying a little bit, but having a lot of conversations. And it was not until many years later that I got the smartphone, so you should check that video out to learn what happened with that. But I didn't have a phone, so I had to communicate with people a lot, make plans, decide where to go, what to do. Later on, I started to add in more flashcard studies because I found vocabulary building. Vocabulary building is so great for learning just about any language, I imagine, but I think it's especially good for Mandarin. Building a lot of vocabulary in Mandarin is really going to help you out because I actually think the grammar of Mandarin it's pretty simple and logical and straightforward. So you really just need to expand the words that you know and get clear about the differences between certain words that sound the same. So I added in a lot of flashcards. I started using the Lightner box system. I teach a lot about that on this channel, so you can check out my Lightner box playlist. And then I also started using games, because a funny reason why I started to develop the games was I got just a little bit tired of conversing with people to learn. I needed some other kinds of methods to learn the language, and I already liked games, and I usually played games in the evenings. So I thought, what if I made a Mandarin language learning game that I could play just with friends and family in the evenings? And I developed the game Chinese Champions just as a way to get more practice in that was different from what I was usually doing. So conversations, flashcards, a little bit of self-study, copying lines maybe from time to time out of a textbook or off of a video on YouTube, and then the language learning card games, which you see on this channel. These things are the methods. These ways are the ways that I've used to progress in my Mandarin. So I spent 2 years in Guilin, and after that I decided I wanted to travel and see more of China. And I went to 4 other provinces after that one. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about the regional dialects, because it seems like every city and village in China has a different local language. It's fascinating. So you will hear these different local languages as you travel around. And I was very interested in that, and I kept my ears open to that as I lived for 1 year in Jiangsu province, 2 years in Shandong province, 1 year in Shandong province, 2 years in Liaoning province, and then down to Guangdong, where I've lived for several years now. And every place I've been exposed to so many amazing local languages. And I would keep my ear open to it. I was so curious to talk to the local people and learn some interesting slang. And a lot of Chinese people, when they would realize that I was interested in that and I was trying to learn some of that, they would kind of try to discourage me from it, or they would laugh at it a little bit or scoff at it, because in China there's been a nationwide push for a long time now to have Mandarin as the national language, as the language that everybody has to know. And I kind of get it. It's their way to unify the people and keep the country running smoothly, economically and politically, and through the education systems. You need a national language. But what's interesting is local languages tend to get a little bit looked down upon, and people who can't speak Mandarin in a very clear or quote-unquote standard way sometimes get made fun of, or they even make fun of themselves. And a lot of local languages are getting lost. Some are quite strong, alive and well, but some are getting lost because they're not getting passed on to the children. So anyways, there were a few occasions where, because I was so tuned into the local people, I could understand something that they said faster than a non-local Chinese person could. Or I could crack a joke using a local phrase that locals would understand, but other Chinese people who are not from that area couldn't understand. So that was a lot of fun. So I traveled through and lived in a few different provinces, and then I had what I think now is an amazing opportunity to move and live to Guangdong province. So I've lived in Guangdong province for, is it 4 years now or 5? I'm not sure. Anyways, it's been a few years in Guangdong. And as for me, when I moved to Guangdong, I half jokingly, but half truthfully said to other people, it really feels like I've moved to a different country, because suddenly most of the people around me were not speaking Mandarin anymore in their daily lives. They were speaking what? You know it? Cantonese. We're talking about Cantonese here, because Guangdong and the city of Guangzhou, formerly called Canton, is the homeworld of Cantonese culture, language, food. All of that is very different around here. They also have a ton of local languages. But when I came here, I thought, wow, I've been learning Mandarin for years, and suddenly I can't converse with the people here like I used to in the other provinces. Well, I can in Mandarin, let's say, but I couldn't connect with them in their mother tongue, which is what I used to do with a lot of people in other provinces. And a situation that was common would be on the streets. People, when they would find out that I could speak Mandarin, they would react very happily. But then they would always follow it up with, but can you speak Cantonese? Or if I could speak just a few Cantonese words, they would really light up. So a lot of Chinese people don't expect foreigners to know Mandarin, but I think even more don't, like, for example, the Cantonese speakers are in even more disbelief if they find out you can speak Cantonese. So just imagine, for example, some foreigners who learn to speak local languages, some do, they really shock Chinese people. But I started to realize if I wanted to connect with these people, it's just like that language learning quote. If you speak to someone in a language they know, it goes to their head. If you speak to someone in their mother tongue, it goes to their heart. I don't know if I said that quite right, but that's basically the idea. So I wanted to be able to connect with these people in a heart-to-heart way. I wanted to be able to connect with them in their mother tongue. But I waffled a little bit on the idea of starting to learn Cantonese because one of the main reasons was I think I recalled all the hours and all the learning I had put into my Mandarin up until that point. So I couldn't imagine starting another language over from square one. The idea was interesting. My curiosity was pretty fired up, but I think I had a thought in my head that if I start learning it, it must be as good as my Mandarin is now. And if it must be as good as my Mandarin is now, then it's going to entail all this work. Do I really want to put in all this work? Maybe some of you guys can relate. I also thought if I start learning Cantonese, how much is that going to be taking away from my Mandarin progress? And am I going to lose ground and start forgetting Mandarin? So I went back and forth for several years like this, and I had conversations with other foreigners about it because there was a lot of foreigners I talked to who had been in China or in Guangdong for years, and they kept saying, well, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. This is another excuse. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, so I'm not really sure if I should put in any time at all. But then they or we end up being here for years and years and years, so we could have learned to an intermediate level by now. So what I realized is we got to break through all these excuses and rationalizations, and if you are in the situation or have the opportunity to start learning a language and you have a good reason to do so, just start doing it. Don't give in to any of those excuses or rationalizations, because oftentimes you'll realize years later that you could have done it by now. You could have gotten a great foundation by now if you hadn't given in to your own excuses and your own rationalizations. So, but finally, I had a change of heart. I think my interest and curiosity about Cantonese and wanting to connect with the local people finally got to me. So I decided to just start getting some tutoring. And I realized that my Mandarin was good enough I could ask my tutor to teach me Cantonese in the Mandarin language. So that really made me feel like I can keep my Mandarin alive and well and even improve it as I start to learn Cantonese. That's a tactic that a lot of people use. Maybe you can try it too. And then another reason why I started to learn Cantonese is because I realized I can afford to dabble. I have the luxury to dabble. There is no foreign language that I must learn for a test or for a job or some other qualification. I'm really learning foreign languages at all just for interest. If that's the case, then it doesn't really matter how far I progress in any one language, and if I want to dabble in another one, I can. I think if you have a concrete reason why you must be learning a certain foreign language, and something like a job or a test, then you probably should focus on that to the exclusion of other languages. But for me, it's all basically just a hobby. So that's these kinds of thought processes are what propelled me into Cantonese. So where am I at now? What's my current language learning status? I would say I am lost somewhere in the intermediate realm of Mandarin and loving it. I am unapologetic about that. I just love being immersed and lost in this language and making mistakes every day and not speaking perfectly fluently, but I still have my curiosity and my burning desire to learn more about Mandarin. And I'm a beginner in Cantonese. You can, I don't know exactly how many hours I've studied it now. A rough estimate is maybe 20 to 25, 40 to 1 hour lessons with 40 minutes to 1 hour lessons with a tutor. So maybe about 25 hours of Cantonese training, a little bit of self-study. You can watch my Cantonese self-introduction video. I'll put a link here. So that's where I am. I primarily learn Mandarin. The next most common, the next language that I study the most is probably English. I like to continually learn new English vocabulary because I feed that into my language learning stories that I write for this company. And then Cantonese, I typically learn maybe once or twice a week for, maybe I have a lesson with a tutor, and then maybe on another day I study by myself a little bit. But I devote much less time to that. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment. Maybe you can let me know what you'd like me to talk about in future videos as I reflect on 10 years of living in China. I want to do some other reflection videos that are on slightly different topics from language learning. And check out what else is going on this channel too, because I want to make language learning magical for you with fantasy-themed card games and stories. I'm working on a new card game right now called Heading into Language Land. It is really a next level product for me. It has been a superior challenge that I've taken on, and it's looking fantastic. I'm hoping to put it out this year. There's a playlist for that game and all my games on my YouTube channel homepage. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. This is a hard topic to summarize, but I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I'll see you back here next time. I tend to post a video every Saturday, so be sure and subscribe, turn on the notifications, and I'll see you later. Good luck with your language learning, especially in these last few weeks of the summer before we all go back to school, back to work. I hope you make some exciting progress in whatever direction you're headed. Let me know about that too. All right, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.